Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to all viewers, listeners, parents, children, adults, and all those brothers and sisters far and wide who are accessing the Tajweed lessons and are taking benefit. Allah accept our efforts and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to obtain our goals. So inshallah, quickly recapping, alif pronounced from the emptiness of the mouth. As we know, if you open your mouth up and you enter your finger into the empty and the hollow part of the mouth, that is called the empty part of the mouth. The a, u, e sounds emanate from the empty part of the mouth. Ba pronounced when the wet portion of the lips come together. So the inner part of the lips. B, bu, bi. And ta pronounced when the tip of the tongue touches the back of the upper front two teeth, the central incisors. It's around the cavity area. So you take the tip of the tongue and you connect it behind the front two teeth, not too strong and not too light as well. And you should avoid it from going onto the gums only, otherwise it will result into a complete different sound. Letter tha, you push the tip of the tongue onto the tip of the touches the edge of the upper front two teeth, as you can see here. The upper front two teeth, the central incisors. Th, thu, th. Make sure you push the sound. Th, thu, thi. Because at times, if you don't push it, then sometimes for adults, the tongue seems to just roll back and it just goes into the default mode. And instead of saying th, they start saying t. And this happens because I have had a few students who are elderly, and for them to then try and the word is to take control and subjugate the tongue, that is to bring the tongue under control. It's not easy. So you push the actual thing is th, thu, thi, tha, thu, thi, etc. Jim, when pronounced when the center of the tongue touches the upper palate. J, ju, ji, aj, uj, ij, etc. So the j sound has to come out, not j, as I explained. It's not a j, ju, ji. It's not like that. Ha from the middle of the throat. You will feel a tingle near the Adam's apple. Ha, hu, hi. And then letter ha from the top of the throat, nearest to the mouth. Ha, hu, hi. And as I explained, many of these makhrajes are also the same makhraj for other letters, which we will come across as we progress through the letters. Pronounce dal, tip of the tongue touches the back of the upper front two teeth. D, do, di, not d, do, di, not onto the gums only, just like letter da. Letter dhal, pronounced just like letter tha, when the tip of the tongue touches the edge of the upper front two teeth, the central incisors. The, du, the, ad, ud, id. Now the interesting letter ra. Let's read the actual makhraj. The pronounced when the edge of the tongue, including, now remember, edge of the tongue, including the immediate top, touches the gums of the upper central incisors and the upper lateral incisors. So it's going to go here. Let's go to the teeth. Let's try and understand this. So let's understand where the edge is. So it's this whole area, okay? The marked area is the entire edge of the tongue over here. Now this edge of the tongue is going to go to the gums of this upper central incisors and the laterals, right? And the immediate top edge. Now when they say immediate top edge, what do they mean? It actually means, so you see this is the tongue, and then just the immediate lining of the tongue here, as you can see where this cursor is going, the immediate top edge. What happens is that your tongue, the edge of the tongue and the immediate top edge of the tongue will go onto the gum area, right? It says it touches the gums of the upper central incisors. So where these teeth are situated, the front two teeth, right, and the ones next to it, left and right, the upper part, not the lower part. Remember, it's upper. So number one is edge. It's not tip and side, it's the edge. And then you've got the immediate top as well of the tongue. and you have the upper central, the gums of the upper central incisors and the upper lateral incisors, right? Let's see if we can zoom into it here. So can you see here, and they've got a small mark here, it's the immediate top edge. It's going to go into the gum area of these. The way to, what will happen is that the tongue will rise, and it's an instant motion. It's like a rapid motion. And to understand and to give yourself a true sort of understanding, and how can you measure and how can you tell whether you are really pronouncing and correctly pronouncing it, because in the language English, I'm speaking in English, so I'm going to refer to English, we don't really get the r sound, the trembling sound, which is what we call takrir, right? This is a specific quality which is added to letter ra, which inshallah we will discuss going forward when we become more advanced, and we will in detail we will discuss the sifat. There are two aspects here. There is the makharij, and there is in sifat there are two types, mahalliya and dhatiya. Mahalliya, don't worry about the word. Mahalliya, in other words, is what is connected to the makharij, and dhatiya is the quality which are embedded and found in the actual word. It forms the essence of the actual letter, not word. Now over here, the word takrir is that very quality which I'm referring to, which is found in the letter, the r sound. You know, when we were kids and we used to make this sort of sound, it sounds basically childish, but it is exactly that r sound which your tongue should be producing. So if you've got your tongue and you take it to the gum areas, and if you just leave it there and just push it and make the r sound, then you know you are going to be able to correctly pronounce letter ra in Arabic. Because in English, you do not get that effect, the r sound. You say any word in Arabic, you say rob, you say robin, you say ra'is. Well, ra'is, you're going to say the r sound because that's actually an Arabic word. But if you say any English word, you will find that it's just the r sound, and there is no connection in how letter r and letter ra are pronounced. And many times what happens is people actually pronounce letter r just like they would be pronouncing the r letter in English, but no, you have to produce the r sound, and this will happen if you follow this. The edge of the tongue touches the immediate top edge of the gums of the upper central incisors and the upper lateral incisors. Ra, ru, ri, ra, ru, ri. You will actually feel the friction with the top edge, the whole edge and the immediate top edge going to the gums of the upper central incisors and upper lateral incisors, and ra, ru, ri, ar, ur, ir. And to know that you are, if you're saying r or ir, then that means you're not doing it correctly. You're saying the English r. But if you're saying r or just kind of exaggerate the trembling sound, the takrir sound, just go get urdu mein larza or kapkapi, right? Just slightly, all sort of over exaggerate it, r or ir, right? If you do that, then you will have an idea whether you're saying that letter correctly or not. And again, it's very important that following this video, I can explain to you whatever I can, and you might even understand it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that practically you are actually pronouncing it and applying the sound correctly. Hence the reason you need to practice it with a tutor who is skilled and is a master in phonetics of the Quran, which is Tajweed. So that is letter Ra. Ra, ru, ri, the r sound. Okay. Now the letter za, sin, za and sin, you notice they have got exactly za, sin, sad, they are grouped together, right? Pronounce when the tip of the tongue, now remember it's moved from edge to tip, okay? It's very important you differentiate between tip and edge. Pronounce when the tip of the tongue touches the edge of the lower incisors, including the upper central incisor. Now you're thinking, how is that going to happen? That is exactly what happens. Let's just go back to the bird's eye view of our teeth. So the tip, first and foremost is the tip, right? It's going to go at the edge over here of the bottom, the lower central incisors, right? So it's a motion. The tip of the tongue will go down and it will flick up and it will go up and it will go there as well. Z, z. So what happens is your mouth will close and it's in between the bottom edge of the central incisors, and then as it says here, including the upper central incisors, right? The lower edge of the lower central incisors and the upper central incisors. So it's going to be in between, like sandwiched in between. Z, zu, zi. So the tongue, what will happen is that you take the tip of the tongue, take it towards the edge of the bottom two teeth, and then try to make the z sound. If you can make the correct z sound in English, it's exactly the same sound, and try and understand the motion your whole tongue is going through. Z, zu, zi. You understand? Zigzag, exact word. You know, this is the kind of techniques we use with the children to see if we can sort of make them say the equivalent sound in the language they best speak, right? Zebra, zigzag. You know, they're not going to say zebra or zigzag. It's z. It's the z sound. Exactly the same. Z, zu, z. The proper z, the buzz sound should be coming out. Buzz. So z, zu, z. And what will happen is that you are actually, your tongue is going to connect with the lower central incisors and the upper central incisors. Z. So it's gonna basically go between there. The edge of the central incisors, lower central incisors, and the upper. So it's kind of just behind it, and it will be kind of just there. Z, zu, zi, az, uz, is. Sa is exactly the same from Z to S. S, su, si. And letter Sad, exact same mukhraj, but it's full mouth. Exact same place, but full mouth. So, su, si. So, su, si. Okay? So inshallah, this is gonna come with practice. You know, you can pray all the days, but it's giving you an idea. See, if you're not taking the tip of the tongue anywhere near these teeth, the edge of the lower central, including the upper central, the edge of these both teeth, the front and the bottom central incisors, then the sound isn't going to come out right. So see, many times some people, they just can't say z and they say jim, right? For example, you know, if it's a za sound, huzua, right? So hujua. We tend to learn, especially depending on which native language you speak, instead of the word huzwa, wailul likulli humazatil lumaza. Humazatil, there's a za. Now, if you are not aware of the makhraj and don't take the tip of the tongue to the area it needs to go to, then instead of saying za, you're just going to do the jim makhraj. Wailul likulli humajatil lumaja. Right? Some people listening to me are probably laughing and finding it probably like sort of giggling away. But that happens, you know. Why do some of the people who come from, especially, you know, I can refer to the subcontinental folks, because that's where our parents are from, and you will sit there and listen to the elderly folk, and they will say lumaja, humajati lumaja, and they, instead of saying za, they're going to say jim, and the sound is actually coming from here, from the center of the tongue touching the upper palate. But if they knew otherwise, if somebody explained to you, look, that letter you're saying is incorrect, they will say, well, you know, I can't really change the way I read now because my tongue is used to the way reading it. Yeah, they make a fair point that they've been reading it incorrectly for such a long time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't correct yourself. You can correct yourself, but as long as you understand where the tongue needs to go. Z, zu, zi, s, su, si. And then at the same time, you are going to letter sheen. Again, it's exactly the same as jim, pronounced from the center of the tongue when it touches the upper palate. Sh, shu, shi, ash, ush, ish. Right? You will find in Jamalul Quran, which is written by Mawlana Ashraf Tanvi, that to practice letters, you take an alif, put a zabar or fath on it, and then the letter you want to practice, you put a sukun or a jazm on it, whichever term you understand. Ash, ush, ish, as, us, is, az, uz, is, ar, or, ir. Okay? So letter za. You don't need to say wailu likulli humajatil lumaja. It's a za, and if you concentrate on this and understand the sound, sometimes many people they don't say the za correctly, and it's more closer to the sin. Right? Za. It's not za, it's za. It's got the Z sound in it. And then you got sheen, exactly the same makhraj as jim, sh, shu, shi, ash, ush, ish. Right? Try to make sure that we don't mix up, don't say every sin as a sheen and every sheen as a sin. And again, it's accents. You know, the villages where we come from, where I personally come from, the dominant letter is sheen. And where many of my friends come from, the dominant sound is sin. Every sheen is a sin, and where we come from, every sin is a sheen, right? But this literally is the case. But why? Because they don't know any better, and it's all about having knowledge, and then at the same time having the knowledge of where the letter should be pronounced from, and then sitting with a skillful, competent qari, a mujawwid, who has got the understanding of tajweed, and they are able to reason and then and help you and coach you and guide you, because it's all about coaching. Now let's do letter sad as well, and we'll finish off. Exact same as zasin, pronounced when the tip of the tongue touches the edge of the lower. Incisors include the upper central. The only difference is this is a full mouth letter, right? And this is something which you will find that there are certain letters which are always full mouth, and there are certain letters which are always empty mouth, and there are a couple of letters which, depending on the condition and the situation, they can be full and empty. So letter sad, sa, su, si, sad, and it's not, when you listen to the makharij, it's sad, sin, za, sad, sad. So take the tongue where it needs to go, and then the empty part with the sphere, the emptiness of the mouth, fill it with it and say sad, sa, su, si. And you got to try to make it sound as natural as possible. We don't want to overdo it as well. Can't over exaggerate the sound. Sometimes we will listen to some people, and what they will say, they over exaggerate it. Let's say what's sad, right? Mina salihin. You don't need to mean the salihin and then really sort of over exaggerate. Just make it sound natural. And this is what exactly Allama Jazriya has said, who is a great mujawwid and a great qari of his time. And we actually follow his tariq, and inshallah, as we will progress, I will explain what that means. But Allama Jazriya, he says in his kitab Muqaddamatul Jazriya, in which he has compiled the rules of tajweed, and there's one particular couplet in there where the meaning of that is that an expert in any field makes it look easy. So see, if somebody is good at something, we sit there in awe and think, oh, that person is so good at this, and they make it look so easy. Well, that's what an expert does, right? You know, just for the understanding of the children that are listening to this and youngsters who are connecting to it, you see certain footballers, they make it look so easy. You know, like for example, Messi and Ronaldo, they just score for fun, and they make it look so easy. We think to ourselves, it's not really. Then try it yourself. You find actually it's not as easy as we think it is, but it's because they are experts. Similarly, you will find qurra and qaris and mujawwideen. They read the Quran, they just flow with it, and they just make it look so easy. But it's not become easy overnight. They have practiced and practiced and practiced, but then they make it seem natural as well. It's like you see anyone in any field, they just go, this person is so natural. You've got to try and be as natural as possible. You can't over exaggerate it, otherwise it's not going to sound right, right? اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط المستقيم لا تطع صاد طاء. So اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, and you're like really giving it and trying your level best. That's not the way to do it. You don't need to over exaggerate. The word in Arabic is ghulu. You don't need to do ghulu. You don't need to over exaggerate it. Make it look natural, sound natural, and make it sound as though you're just a natural at it. So letter sad, sheen, sin, za, ra. Remember the ra sound. Ra, ru, ri, ur, ir. Take the alif with the fatha, and then letter dal, dal, ha, ha, jim, tha, ta, ba, and alif. Inshallah, continue going over these letters which we have covered, and then we will move on to another interesting letter Dad, inshallah. So until next time, on behalf of Ihya Sunnah Bolton, I'm Madrasa Kashif al-Ulum Preston, subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.